Dean Devlin and Jonathan Glassner teamed up to create a new space series on Syfy called The Ark. Everyone wanted to be on this ship is the title of the first episode. It's 50 minutes and streaming free on YouTube. On this podcast, we like to check out and discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's February 6th, and you're listening to today's episode. So to kick off the episode, I thought it'd be cool if we started off with a game called Would It Surprise You? I've got 4 facts here about the Ark, and one of them is obviously fake. Can you choose which one it is? Okay. The first thing is that the Chinese spy satellite hovering over Montana that was recently shot down was actually a failed marketing campaign by Syfy to promote this show.
Yeah, okay, that's a fake one.
That's the fake one?
That's
you think so?
I don't have to hear any of the other ones.
All right, well, here are the other ones. This isn't the only Ark show to come out this year. Ark, the animated series starring Gerard Butler and David Tennant, is a show based off a video game, Ark Survivor Evolved, that's coming out later in 2023.
Never heard of Ark Survivor. So what is it? Ark Survivor Cabal? Evolved. Okay.
Yeah, it's a video game. All right. And then this next one is Dean Devlin, the show creator or the co-creator, also the writer, director, and producer of the first episode, was also the writer of the 1998 Godzilla movie, Geostorm, and also another show that we did earlier called Almost Paradise.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one is the whole thing was filmed in Serbia for budgetary constraints. Remember Pandora?
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
Pandora.
I definitely remember Pandora,
Pandora was filmed in Bulgaria. Bulgaria and Serbia share a border, but it's not to be confused with Syria. Because at first when I read it, I was like, wait, that's, okay, Serbia.
And you're saying one of these is fake?
One of them is fake.
I still am going with the first one.
Yes, it is the first one. Apparently, this is what the Dean Devlin said. He said, this is a show that would cost 4 or 5 times what the budget we had to do it on. So the only way to give it the size and scope that was necessary was to go to Serbia. Which is crazy.
It already seemed cheap that way. Like, if you don't have enough money for it, why would you try and do that?
This isn't here to compete with The Expanse, even though that also started on Syfy. It's not here to compete with The Foundation on Apple. It's not here to be like a massive space show. I think it's just another Pandora, but I might be wrong. You tell me.
I 100% agree with you. Pandora is like the prime example I would use whenever I would be talking about this TV
How about
show.
if I threw some other ones out there? Another Life, that Katie Sackhoff show, ran for 2 seasons, was on Netflix. It wasn't very good.
Never saw it.
How about Passengers? Because the plot
it definitely there's a lot of parallels.
This is the synopsis.
Chris Pratt waking up like in one of those chambers.
Yeah, in just 2 lines, I got spacecraft Ark 1, correct me if I'm wrong, encounters a catastrophic event on a mission to secure the survival of the human race. The remaining crew must survive with a lack of life-sustaining supplies, loss of leadership, and over a year until they can reach the target planet.
Yes, it starts off with Sharon Grant, and there's a ton of sleep chambers, and suddenly there's like this breach, and like people are waking up and they're having to get out of here because this ship is about to tear into 2. This is the beginning scene.
So unlike with Chris Pratt, where he was the only one to wake up when the ship malfunctioned, everyone's waking up at the same time.
Well, there's a little bit of a difference. Sharon Grant is the first person we see, and she's starting to wake up different people from different like sleep chambers.
And who's Sharon Grant?
She's the main character. She's a lieutenant, and later on in the episode, she ends up being one of the like 3 that hold the most power, because it turns out that a ton of people starting off this show just die. Like, you're able to see some
that's
people.
What the emergency is, I assume.
Yeah, some people are able to make it. Some people are able to make it into the room next to them. Like, there's a lot of characters in this TV show that are still alive.
Is it like oxygen deprivation where just everyone's sucked out into space?
It's just like the whole ship, that whole room that's
collapses.
Keeping all of them just breaks apart.
Okay, like, yeah, but what I'm saying is like, are all these things just flying off into the ether?
I mean,
nowhere?
yeah. After that's how it starts off, and then we get to
it looks
the
cheap.
intro. Yeah, I mean, the whole show looks cheap. There really was not one part of this. Like, it felt like a show that would come out in 2004. Like, that's the best way I feel like to describe it.
Okay, because it does remind me a little bit of the second season of For All Mankind, when they started shooting bullets and suddenly, like, the oxygen and the people started getting pulled through the windows.
But that looked really cool.
It looked really cool. So how did this look cheap?
I think it just didn't have the budget that it needed to. It's not memorable. And really, even though it starts off with a scene where you're supposed to see like a ton of people die, it just felt like it was all cheap, really
But did you
blocky.
not see the people die?
You see like some of the sleep chambers once you do see the ship break apart and the sleep chambers go out into outer space, but even that didn't even look realistic.
Why not? Is it just bad CGI, or does it look like someone's holding up like a spaceship on a string?
It's not. The first scene is not like awful with the CGI in terms of like everything. It just didn't look like it looked like a show that came out. You know when there was like a ton of like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, again, you said 2004 already.
2004. That's just what it felt like, but it felt like even less or so. And I feel like we're almost past the point now where a show being set up in space, you need to have more. For All Mankind, you have kind of rewriting of history and all that stuff. With things like The Expanse, you have them also taking place on Earth and Venus, and you can pick really all these different type of TV shows that do something different in space. This just felt like the driving force was they wanted to make a show about space, but they didn't really have anything to go with.
I don't want to disagree with you because the reviews have been pretty negative for this pilot. However, when you bring up things like Battlestar Galactica from 2004, that's considered like the first show to actually step it up.
I was bringing up good examples.
Gear.
I was trying to bring up good examples. I was trying to show like the differences of which like space TV show came from the early 2000s to now.
Yeah, well, for all the For All Mankind's and Expanses, at least the first 2 seasons of For All Mankind, you have like really bad space shows that have come out recently, and again, the Another Life one was not the best. Pandora, Away. So when you saw Away, that was based on the actual events of like Mark Kelly's brother.
You can't really compare Away to the Ark because, like I said, Away almost felt like it was a documentary in a certain sense. Like it felt like it was realistic. The Ark,
it had a 6.6 on IMDb. Pandora has a 4.2 on IMDb. Do you want to guess what this has on IMDb?
I think it has probably, like a 4 maybe.
Last I checked, a 3.6.
A 3.6. Well, honestly, it's well deserved. There's no characters that are memorable. They are so surface level and so stereotypical in their own way. And even though there's a lot of them that I feel like the show is trying to like kind of put in the seeds for or really give you a reason to like them, they're just not good.
Okay,
like
so take us through the day of Sharon Garnett, because that's her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, can I go through the characters first because I feel like it would be easier.
Yeah, Sharon Garnett, Spencer Lane, James Bryce.
Those are the 3 that are in command because they go searching for the captain and the captain is dead. She must have been in the room when or part of the ship that broke off. Yeah. And then you have Trent. Trent is someone who lost his mom and a family member close to him named Suzanne. That's actually something that we see in the first scene. Trent is trying to like really hard to open up this chamber, the sleep chamber.
Trent's not a main character, is he?
All the other characters I'm mentioning are side characters.
Gotcha.
Then we have Alicia Nevins. She's a nerd character. She's supposed to be someone that's kind of undervalued at her job. She works for like the waste management department, like at the beginning of the episode. But by the end of the episode, she like is really in computers and is able to save the ship. So therefore, she's probably going to have a higher job come the next few episodes. She reminds me of the
Avenue 5 character, the lady in that who like took over for the main engineer, but she originally was just supposed to be like in charge of the eels or something.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's a good comparison. Then you also have Angus. He's the nerd boy character that is like trying to plant crops but needs a lot of fertilizer, so him and Alicia are kind of working close together because again she works for the waste management in the first episode. And then you have Felix, a security guard who really doesn't say much, but I guess the big plot in this episode is they're trying to save water. They're about a year off course from where they're supposed to be because Earth is dying and they were trying to find a new like kind of homeland. And therefore, they were supposed to wake up 2 weeks before the ship landed. But because of like the whole entire breach and everything that happened, it was knocked off course. And they're not going to have enough water or really enough food or even enough maybe fuel possibly to even make it to this planet. And I felt like one of the biggest problems with the show was that it didn't decide to just stick with one thing. They were trying to throw in all these different problems that they were going to have to deal with, which I mean might work for a movie because in the movie it's 2 hours and it's done. But for a TV show, it turns out to be really hectic because it's like it seems like the show is trying to throw in so many solutions to so many different things.
I usually hear the opposite. When there's something so complicated, it's better to spread it out over a bunch of episodes than it is to put it into a movie where it would just be like claustrophobic. My point is though is that if they wanted to focus on the water storyline, they should have focused on the water storyline, the crop storyline, like this other breach that happens later on in the episode, focus on that. But it just tried to do too much, I felt like. They're all really, really young, right? I would say so. I'm curious whether or not the genre is supposed to be more for teens, or is it supposed to be? Is this a space drama? Is it a comedy? Is it a mix of both? They try to throw
it's a mix of both. But it's definitely for like a young adult audience because none of the characters here seemed like they had anything beyond supposed to look good. Like
now, the other shows on the network that are pretty popular right now are Chucky and Resident Alien, right?
Yeah.
So does this fit into that vibe at all? Do you think that like it could be the top 3?
No, this one's
not going to get a second season.
I really hope it doesn't. At least from the first episode, it just felt like so much was going on and nothing was happening at the same time. It takes 30 minutes before it even decides where it wants to go, and then even as the last 25 minutes are going down, and it's supposed to be this big like kind of chase thing, like what's going to happen. It doesn't feel.
Take me through that though. Like you've introduced a lot of characters, but like tell me the plot besides just that they're looking to get to another planet.
Well, again, the fact that they want to grow crops and grow water is a huge deal. You also have like a weird blonde lady who I didn't even get the name of that like was trying to take a shower and then Felix stops her and like doesn't allow her to.
She's using too much water. That reminds me a lot of, again, Expanse in the first season where they were monitored for the amount of water that they could have outside of Earth.
Yeah, no, and it's like they even put together this council that agrees to let Angus grow this food because one of the people, I think it was James Bryce, was mad at Sharon Garnett because Sharon Garnett, again, the main character, was talking to Angus and was like, yeah, go ahead and do so. So they're like actually trying to come up with like a solution with all these different ship malfunctions and all this different stuff. But 30 minutes into the episode, a huge ship malfunction happens. A huge breach again that it seems like all the characters, all the oxygen is being ripped out of the ship. Yeah. So they have to put on these helmets, but some of the helmets don't even have oxygen in them. And then all these characters that we've seen in the pilot like are either on death's door or different stuff. And one of the people who was supposed to really be like the head of the department that's able to actually do coding for the ship, I forgot what his alias was, but he faked his job because he was trying to get on the ship because he was scared of Earth dying way sooner than maybe even scientists were predicting. Okay. His name was Malcolm, and so they end up like arresting him. But then also that's when
this is causing me to think of so many other space shows because then in the arresting or someone pretending a stowaway, basically that reminds me a lot of Lost in Space, where you have the lady doctor who really isn't a doctor but really just an evil like psychopath.
And that's when Alicia Nevins decides to like kind of show her skills, and she's able to like figure out what the ship malfunction is. And then they even try to have this weird kind of ending scene where Sharon Garnett, they're keeping Malcolm in this different room.
Like a cell?
Yeah, kind of. He's like handcuffed to a pipe, and it's a very small room. And Sharon Garnett is like, you know what? I'm thinking a death sentence is probably going to be the best for you once we're able to actually contact.
Oh, I thought she meant like right then, like they were going to disperse him out the airlock, like in Avenue 5 or maybe in Outer. What was that one show that came out on Yahoo a long time ago? The space show?
Other Space,
where they like released Dave Franco outside the airlock. Yeah.
And
I like it when they do that. That's a cool scene.
They didn't do anything like that though, because Malcolm starts like threatening because apparently he had some information on Sharon Garnett, how she used to be an alcohol, or it was just like some random story he told him. By the end of the episode, everyone goes to Malcolm to see what they're going to do, and Malcolm has his throat slit, and the show is trying.
So Malcolm does die. He just doesn't die in the way I thought he would.
The show's trying so hard to be like, oh, Sharon Garnett, she really did kill him, and it's like, no, this is obvious. The show doesn't have the like guts or confidence to even pull off something like that.
Like the main character is not going to be a cold-blooded killer. It's just not going to be the next Breaking Bad.
Yeah, no, in no way. And I mean that in terms of the fact that this feels like a TV PG show, but also just the fact that the show doesn't have anything new or compelling.
So when you watch the Orville, I think there was like an explosion that was in a dream sequence.
Yes, that was at the beginning of.
And you talked about how amazing that looked. Like you said, it was really cool. So in comparison to this, because they both start off in a very similar sequence, except one was just a dream. This show, as soon as it was done with that immediate catastrophe at the beginning, just was not able to assemble itself together in a meaningful way.
Throughout the show, they would show the exterior of the ship. One thing that I did find cool was that they would like pan the camera up and you would see the whole ship, and the room that they would show would then cut to what was happening inside the room. And so whenever they showed that and they showed the exterior, it always looked really good. But the funny thing is that aside from the CGI looking good inside the the sets, so much of it was just interior and gray, and the lighting felt like a soap opera, and it felt like there was just way too much there.
That's very
very much Pandora. Except I would say this is maybe a tinge better because it feels like there was active, like, and you can tell.
I mean, Dean Devlin and Jonathan Glassner are not the same. Like the Pandora people were kind of just like new, or they were kind of running it by the.
And it was on CW as well.
Well, this is Syfy, so it's not like there's a step a tier above. They're kind of both the same.
I will say the acting also wasn't even that great, but I really can't blame the actors that much because it seems like the script they were given, you can't really do anything with.
When you talk about the exterior shot and you talk about throat slitting, it also reminds me of the Night Flyers show that George R.R. Martin had a season of.
I don't remember that.
That was like his other book that was supposed to be the first edition that came out after or during, I think, Game of Thrones that was going to launch, but then just became nothing. It also had like psychopathic characters on the ship.
Did it not do well?
It wasn't great. The interesting thing about this show is that the reviews are complicated. So the Daily Beast agrees with you. It calls it a travesty. Wow. But Variety is also negative. It says it's nonstop exposition and it's brutal pacing.
I didn't mention that, but I did have that in my notes. Every single character in every single scene, the amount of exposition they say, like, oh, we have to do this because, as you know, they always do that thing.
Let's
just say what you already know or whatever. I completely forgot
time is of the essence now.
But that is a huge problem with this show. Every single character, exposition, every scene.
Fans also pointed out that there was an issue with the science part because there's artificial gravity on the ship, and they explain that through the centripetal force that the ship is moving in a circle, right?
Yeah.
But they were saying that it was moving in the wrong direction during one scene, so they should not have been able to just stand, and that the gravity if they were going to do the science of it, they should have done what the Expanse did and actually like took some time with it and tried to figure out what they were doing.
Yeah, honestly, whenever it got to its explanations as to what was going on, I think that you're talking about a scene where they assembled everyone, and that's the scene where Sharon Garnett has to say, hey, the captain is dead, and tell everyone on the ship and say, we're the three main captains now. But honestly, whenever it got to that point, I just kind of zoned out because I was like, this is unimportant.
But if the fans are able to tell if the ship is spinning in the wrong direction, you'd think that they would be able to tell.
Oh, I'm not giving any excuse, but I'm just,
Yeah, it takes place in the future, though, right?
I think so. Yeah, I forgot when exactly.
I thought it was like 100 years in the future.
Probably.
Okay, sounds like you were really, really into the show. Any big twists that they talked about?
Again, I think the biggest twist was just
Sharon?
Malcolm just being dead.
And whether Sharon did it?
Yeah.
Anything? Is Spencer Lane supposed to be like a love interest or James Bryce? Like, what are their roles?
James Bryce was the second in command. He has a scene at the beginning where he's supposed to be really cocky and he like gets out of this bathtub and he's completely nude and it's supposed to show that he's kind of a
But
dick.
They don't show that. They just
it's from the back.
Okay.
But then you also see, I think at the end of the episode, Alicia, he gives like the job for computer coding or something, and then also you have Spencer Lane, and probably like a weird love triangle that's going to happen for this show. Mm-hmm. I was just so done, even by the beginning scene, even after the intro, I was just already so done with this show. I was like, I can tell that this.
You were checking out already.
Yeah, and it was really hard to try and pay attention.
When you say the nude scene from the back, though, it just reminds me of Time Traveler's Wife. The amount of times that I had to see the main actor, like they showed just the butt shot. It was just like the Terminator shot constantly that they were going for. Whenever he flashed back in time, he was always nude. The funny thing about the cast, though, is that they've all been in stuff, but like never as like main characters. You've got people from Bly Manor and Billy the Kid, Maid, The Outpost, The Sandman, but like all these people,
all
none
stuff
of them
we've seen. But I didn't even recognize any of them.
Well, yeah, because they appear in like 1 or 2 episodes, and it's just interesting that they all moved to Serbia for a good, I guess, few months in order to film all this.
I never like to say this about a show, but I don't even see potential for it to get any better. Like, this feels like it's going to be a standard episode, nothing more, nothing less, and the standard episode that they gave us was pretty bad. So
it's interesting you say that, because most reviewers were given 4 episodes, right? And normally we like to just concentrate on the show episode that we're speaking about.
Yeah.
So everyone wanted to be on the ship. By the way, why is it
I should probably mention, Malcolm, that's his explanation when he's speaking to Sharon Garnett. This is right before he is about to threaten her, and he says everyone wanted to be on the ship. That's the reason why he was able to sneak on, because that was his explanation as to why Earth was going to be.
So, like, with Raising Wolves, everybody else on Earth is basically dead?
I mean, I think scientists said for Earth it's supposed to take like either 50 or 75 years before the planet is just so uninhabitable.
And it's supposed to be because of climate change, right?
Yeah. And he was saying, what if it's actually less? What if it's like, 1 year, 2 weeks, whatever. So he was just trying to get on a ship. That's why it's called that.
Yeah. So what I was going to say, though, is that with these 4 episodes that some places got, there ended up being a little bit of a shift. Like, people were expecting that after the first few episodes, there might be a turn in the way that people look at the show. For instance, Roger Ebert gave it a partially positive review, saying that by the 4th episode, it becomes a modest adventure, a clever pseudoscience space show. Hollywood Reporter also hinted that it gets better after the first few episodes, and Den of Geek said it was a welcome space sci-fi throwback, which makes me think, legitimately, that it's right now just going through some freshman like difficulties to kick off, but like that by episode 4 it redefines itself, sort of like the Orville maybe, and like becomes better.
If this is freshman difficulties, then this is like bottom of the barrel freshman difficulties. I will say,
but how crazy would that be if a show this, as you're saying, bad, in a couple episodes says, okay, well, we're actually going to take a serious note here, or we're going to make it like they're supposed to shift tones or genres or something that makes it better.
Again, well, the arc it's not a comedy. It's not like just like bad comedy. There are jokes that they have in it, but it is trying to be dramatic at different points.
Yeah. What I'm saying, though, is that you would immediately write this off. You said that you would not watch another episode, right?
Yeah.
So I think you should. I think you should watch the 4 episodes and then maybe in the next podcast, we'll just mention it.
There's even characters that we didn't even talk about, like Eva. She is the head of maintenance.
Eva Markovic.
And yeah, she's like secretly dating a guy, but she doesn't want it to be let out to the ship. And then that guy just ends up randomly dying during this breach. Like just random stuff that feels like it didn't have any bearing on the actual plot.
It sounds like the 100. A little bit.
Yeah, you can make that comparison.
But the 100 was liked.
I also said 4,400.
Oh.
Either of them.
It's like everything. It's just everything and nothing at the same time. That's what the walkaway is for this show.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to add?
I mean, if I see, you said that the IMDb score is like a 3.6 right now.
But right? The IMDb score it probably is just judged on the one episode that's been released. But for the critics, I don't see, like, usually critics like to jump on, if a show is bad, they're all going to like take out the claws and like start, unless maybe it's The Guardian and then you get a weird review.
I'll skip through the next couple episodes, see if there's like a interesting plot line, and if that's the case, I might watch another episode. But my
well, it's
review,
not the episode, you got to watch all 4.
My review for this pilot is a 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. All right. Well, that's where we'll leave it then. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.